Welcome to the Max Out Mindset Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Larry Woodman, sometimes known as Doc in the mindset world. I always say my definition of maxing out is given the talent, the experience of the athletes, coaches, and team, the depth, the health, and the intangibles. Can a team reach the limits of their capabilities? And then can they do it under pressure when it matters the most? Because I always say, if you can't do it when it matters, what's the point? And then I do this podcast because I've been really blessed over the last 20 years to work with some of the best athletes, coaches, teams, and leaders in the world. And so I like to share what I learned through that experience. But whenever I have a guest on, I'd rather spend most of our time learning from our guest. And so today, I'm really, really fortunate to have somebody who I don't usually ask around, but I really asked a favor of another Olympian to reach out to this Olympian. And so let me tell you a little bit about her, because and then she'll obviously fill a lot of the gaps. But I know we're from Edina, Minnesota. And I suspect that we came into volleyball a little bit later than some others, but she joined a team called the University of Cincinnati, played volleyball there, where she was the Conference Player of the Year 3 times, 2-time AVCA All-American. You're going to hear a pattern here of making history, but as I understand it, she had 50 kills in a college match, which is the most since rally scoring has started. Her team made history by making the Sweet 16 under her leadership. She's 7th all-time in kills in the country. And then she's gone on to play professionally in Turkey, where she was named the best outside hitter in the Turkey Cup. I know her team won the league title. And then, of course, we have this journey on the U.S. women's national team as well, where she was a member and a starter and a very active contributor on the gold medal team here this past summer, where she also made history and the most number of points in a 3-set match, where she had 34 points in a 3-0 sweep, I believe, over China. So we're seeing a pattern here of excellence, which is going to lead us into some interesting spaces here in the conversation based on some things that I've heard her say. So, Jordan Thompson, welcome to the Max Out Mindset Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you. There's some members of your team that I've known through my days at Nebraska and beyond. But then I had Kim Hill on recently, and she just crushed it. And of course, who doesn't want to learn from teams that are trying to make history? Whether you're in high school, college, anywhere, teams are trying to do things they've never done before. You have a pattern of doing that. But for people that don't know you, and to hear a little bit more about maybe your journey, besides what I've said, could you give us a little feeling of what it was like for you to grow up? And then how did you end up in the volleyball world at the University of Cincinnati? I suspect your journey is a little different.
Yeah, I started playing club volleyball when I was in 8th grade. And that was my second year playing volleyball. I decided to try out because I had a friend who was playing in 7th grade and I really wanted to play with her. And so I tried out, and she made the A team and I made the B team. So I didn't even get to play with her. But that was when I really started to fall in love with the sport. And I really appreciated the team aspect of it, and that it's not something that you can do alone. And I think there are other team sports like basketball where you do have to rely on your teammates, but it's not the same as volleyball. Like, you can only touch the ball one time, and then it has to go to a different teammate. And so I really enjoyed that part of the game. And so I played in club and sort of started to develop and kind of grow into my body and figure things out more. And then got an offer from the University of Cincinnati and was really excited to go there. I knew that going in, it was going to be sort of a rebuilding process. And I just really wanted to be a part of something where I could go in and have an impact and be able to, I think, just like push the envelope and try to accomplish things that they hadn't done before. And so I was really excited that there was a possibility that I could go in as a freshman and have some playing time and really contribute to the team early on. And, to have these big goals of, we want to go to the Sweet 16 and, sort of to see where my journey started there and kind of what we were accomplishing my freshman year, and then to see where we ended my senior year of actually making it to the Sweet 16 and being so close to going to the Elite Eight. And it was just a really special journey. And yeah, I was just really thankful for my time there because I feel like I developed so much as a player and as a person. And there was kind of this underdog mentality, which I think for me helps me to stay really hungry and um, just wanting to continue to get better at all times. And so I think I've taken that mentality and always tried to never think that I'm bigger than the game and always be aware of how much room I have to grow and improve. And I think that really keeps me hungry to just help my team in any way that I can. So I think being at Cincinnati really helped me just with that mindset.
Yeah, what a great message too, right? I mean, and the way you've used that as fuel for yourself, right?
Mhm.
Not all in a positive way, right? Maybe a little bit of a chip, but also more of this
Mhm.
appreciation that I have growth. And what was it? It's interesting. Just in the last handful of months, I've had a little bit of a connection with your coach from Cincinnati, just over the phone about a few things that we've communicated about. What was it about your coach there that what did she see in you that maybe others didn't? Or what did she see in you and what did you see in her that you said, this is where I want to go?
Yeah, I think going in, I just really connected with the coaching staff, and they were very upfront with their vision for the program. And I think they were very realistic about it, and knowing that it's not like I'm going to come in and then we're going to, you know, have an amazing season and we're going to go win the whole like national championship. Like it was very just realistic. And I think they really laid it out of like, this is what it's going to look like. And these are our goals. And we want you to be a part of that. Um, and I don't know, that really drew me in. I think the vision for the program and knowing that I could be a part of something bigger than myself. Um, and then when I was there, just I think the investment that they put into me as a player and, you know, on the court, off the court, reading leadership books and going over them weekly with my coach and trying to grow as a leader, trying to develop as a person and, you know, being a good teammate. And then, of course, the volleyball side of things. And I think for a long time, I couldn't necessarily see my own potential. And so my coaches really, I think, called that out of me and were constantly pushing me to get better and constantly pushing me to never settle for where I was at. And I think they were just able to see my potential way earlier than I could see it in myself. So I think that was huge in my growth because I needed coaches that saw something in me and were able to push me and develop me in that way.
Yeah. You'll hear me talk about this probably as we go on, but for the audience again too, I call that my third ingredient of confidence. What my teammates or coaches say to me, either in moments of stress or during the time I'm with them, can either help or hurt my confidence.
Mhm.
And the role of a coach, mentor, teacher, sometimes parent, there's a number of people in this world that can help us or hurt our confidence. And
Yeah.
the best in the world struggle with their confidence as well. And a lot of people don't always believe that. They think because you're great, we don't ever struggle with anything. So I always say the best have awareness of what they struggle with and then strategies to deal with it. So I want to come back and ask you a little bit about some of the mindset ingredients that I value, that I want to see if there are any that you think you were became really good at, any that you still struggle with. So we get to Cincinnati, you grow on and off the court. I mean, obviously, not that many people, nobody really knows what it's like to have 50 kills in a match, but um, how are you able to stay humble and hungry when you come off the court setting NCAA records with 50 kills in a single match? I mean, there's been thousands of matches played in history, and there's only one person with 50 kills. Explain how you can balance those two things.
I think just having the awareness that like I don't do this, like I don't get those records and do that kind of stuff by myself. And so um I just give so much credit to my teammates and my coaching staff because there's no way I would ever be in that situation without them. And so for me, I think, I don't know. I just don't want to focus it like too much on myself. And I think that helps me to kind of stay humble and not, I never want to, get a big head. And I always want to be very aware of, you know, I can't do any of this without my teammates. And I think that's what drew me into the sport to begin with. And that's what's helped me to continue to stay humble throughout my career, and just realizing how much I have to rely on my teammates and my coaches. And, um, it's just so much bigger than me. And I never, like I said earlier, want to ever feel like I'm, bigger than the game or something like that. So I think I try to give credit where credit is due to my teammates because, yeah, like I said, without them, those records are definitely not being set. So,
Yeah. That's a incredible message for people, right? We live in a world today often where people get very, what I call egocentric, and they get very focused on themselves and
mhm.
what they're about and what they've accomplished. And my experience with the best teams and athletes and businesses and leaders in sport and life, it is about the team. It is about everybody else in your world that helps you be better, and also your role in elevating others. I'm curious, during your time at Cincinnati, then, what did you figure out about yourself that you were able to elevate others as well? You hinted that through leadership and stuff that you also were able to help your team be better. What did you do when you reflect back on it that maybe you didn't think you were capable of in terms of elevating other people?
Yeah, I think naturally I'm a non-confrontational person. And so I am not going to be it's not going to come naturally to me to be the person to, want to call my teammates out or say, hey, like, we have to meet our standard, or we have to have like a higher level of expectation. And, I know we can hit that pass and do that. Like, those are things I'm normally going to be more like, it's okay, everything's great. And I think I learned that by being the more like always overly positive teammate, I'm actually hurting my team instead of trying to help raise the level of play and set the high expectations and have like high standards. And so it's been difficult because I never want to hurt anyone's feelings, but at the end of the day, it's not about feelings and um, trying to be mean, but just, we want to win, and to win, we have to hold each other accountable. And that's not a negative thing. And so I think that was huge for me to learn, because there are times where, whether it's on the court or sacrifices that you're having to make off the court, um, being able to have those tough conversations with teammates at times where it's really uncomfortable, but I know that it's helping the team and it's raising the level of the team. So that was something um, that was, I think, difficult for me to adjust to, but I realized the value in doing that.
Yeah. So a couple of things that I've heard that I want to make sure my audience heard too, which is that two of the ingredients of championship teams that I talk about is, one is commitment. That's accountability, being all into what you say you're going to do. And I always tell people that the players, the athletes, have to be the ones that do that, the team leaders. If the coaches are the ones doing that, it never goes as well. And yet today, if I ask leaders in college and high school, but especially in college, the hardest thing for these leaders to do today, women and men, are to figure out how to hold their teammates accountable, because they're so worried about wanting to be liked and doing it the right way and not coming off as the bad person. And And so maybe your insights onto, you know what, it's not a bad thing because you're
Mhm.
actually hurting the person if you always are glossing things over, right?
Right.
Because the number one thing that women teams do that separate out that either cause or don't cause problems is the ones that can resolve conflict. And in a
Mhm.
sense, that is a conflict. I have a teammate that's not living up to the standards. Do I hold them accountable to it and have a challenging conversation that is in sense resolving a conflict, or do I not? And
Mhm.
sounds like you worked on that. And I always tell teams and athletes and coaches that you have to have enough talent to be in the discussion to win championships or make history, but it's the non-technical skills of your sport, resolving conflict, right, communicating, holding
Mhm.
people to a higher standard with commitment. Those are the things, among a lot of other things, that help teams max out. um,
Yeah.
and so I'm glad that you pointed that out, because you too, it doesn't come natural for, right?
Yeah.
That's not your natural wiring, and it's hard to be that way anyways, isn't it? So I love that you can see the value of that. There's an ingredient of leaders that is tied into that. I want to hear your thoughts on this, that I feel is the biggest challenge for young coaches and athletes today. And it's what I call a healthy mixture of love and accountability, figuring out how much love to give and also how much accountability to give. And if love is too much without accountability, or accountability is too much without love, it tends to go sideways pretty quickly. Is that another way of what we're talking about for you, that you were more on the love side? That's your nature.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to lose that, but you felt the accountability side, you understood the value of that.
Yeah. I think that's, really accurate. And I think when you're, you like you were saying, you need both. You can't have too much accountability and you can't have too much love. Um, but when you have that healthy balance and you have, um, because I think when there's love, there's a foundation of trust. And so then you have the freedom to have the hard conversations and have that accountability, because there's you your teammates are going to know um, that you're not doing it out of, in a malicious way or just to hurt their feelings. They know, hey, I genuinely care about you. I want you to like exceed and, reach your potential and help the team. And so just having that balance, I think, like you said, is just really important, because um, yeah, you can't have too much of either. But they're both really important. You need them both. So yeah.
So you heard my definition of maxing out. I want you to tell me your definition of maxing out, and then tell me if you feel like your team at the University of Cincinnati maxed out, in your opinion, the year
Yeah.
you made the Sweet 16.
I think maxing out, it's taking like all facets of the game of, it's the talent and the skill and the technical stuff, but then also the um inner workings of a team and being able to out team other teams and um, find those little things that can help you one up others. And, whether that's the conflict resolution, the effective communication on the court, things off the court, and real like knowing that one on the team is committed and you're all um, meeting the standard of what you guys have agreed to as a team. And I think we did a really good job of that. My last year at Cincinnati, I think we went into the season and we, in our preseason meetings, we were talking about, okay, what are our goals? How do we want to define these things and how do we want to reach these goals? And we knew that it was going to be a lot of, um, it was going to take a lot of commitment and a lot of sacrifices. And I think we just did a really good job of raising the bar for where the program had been. And um, I don't know, I think we played with a lot of that underdog mentality, and we were hungry for more. We wanted to take the program to places it had never been before, and we wanted to make history and show how we had been growing as a program. And so I think we did a really good job of that, and it was just really fun to see where we started out during this at the beginning of the season. I remember we played Pitt, and they were ranked really high, and we got beat pretty bad. It was just like not even close. And then to see where we ended up, we had to beat them to go to the Sweet 16, and we won in 5. And so to look at the evolution of our team over just that season was really special too, because we never let that hunger die. And I think it just got stronger as we continued to face more challenges and work through different conflicts and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think we did a really good job of just, you know, using all aspects of the game to really reach our goals.
Yeah. And I love the fact that so often people think when a team makes history that it was just one of those magical years. Everything went their way, everything was right. There was never any drama or conflict. And again, my observation has been that there's a life of every team, and most of the things we don't know about. But of course, there are things that go on teams, some that you can share, some that you really can never share, but you have to work through them. But I
Mhm.
think people don't appreciate the journey the teams have to go on to make history. They just think that's a magical run, everything in their way, no injuries, and that's why they made history. And usually the opposite is true. So what's cool about it is that my sense is that your answer would be your team did max out in that sense,
Mhm.
right? And because I always say, it really frustrates me when somebody loses at 5, say, to not go to the Elite 8 there or whatever. Well, or if they win in 5, boy, that team was resilient and mentally tougher. But if they lose by 2 points, they weren't mentally tough. It's just,
Mhm.
it's not that simple. You can lose in 5 to Penn State to go to the Elite 8 and never be more resilient. You just
Yeah.
win. But it's funny what humans do. They want to equate, oh, we pulled this miracle off in 5, so we're so mentally tough and connected. But if you lose, nobody wants to say we're still mentally tough and connected.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that your team ended with a loss. Well, I don't love that they ended, but that you're still able to say, look, you know, we left it all out there. We evolved, and we couldn't be more proud of our journey, and making
Mhm.
history is fun. That's a pattern for you. And it leads me to, all right, so before we wrap up this part of your life, at some point along the way here, when did you realize that maybe there was a next level for you, like either national team, professional, or both? Coming from Cincinnati, that is not the typical path, right? To make
Yeah.
the Olympics a national team. If we're being honest, that's not where most players come from. So
Yeah.
how did you figure that out for you, that maybe there's more out there for me?
I knew Kelsey Robinson actually came and talked with our team. I think it was my end of my freshman year, or maybe going into sophomore year that summer. But she was sharing about her journey with the national team and her journey overseas. And I think that was the first time I really realized, like, there was a whole professional world of volleyball, and I could go play overseas and continue my career. And so from that point on, I knew, I was like, I have to do this. This is going to be like, it was my dream. And so um, I knew from then that I wanted to play professionally. And I thought it would be a dream come true and so amazing to get the chance to train with the national team. And so then when I was in college, I would go to the open tryout in Colorado Springs for Team USA. And I made a couple collegiate national teams. And I thought that was just the coolest experience ever. I got to travel overseas and play different styles of volleyball or against different styles of volleyball. And then going into my senior year of college, I had gotten invited to train in the spring training group in the national team gym. And I was really thrown off by that because I didn't really understand why they would ask me to come and train when there were so many amazing players in the country who were playing at maybe stronger volleyball schools. Um, but I was just so hungry to learn and grow and soak in the whole experience. And so um, then from there to get invited to train in the summer with the national team, my mind like could not wrap around how that was even a thing. But it was, I think then I realized like, oh, I might actually get to play with like the national team one day. Um, and I think I was so hungry to learn more. I wanted to watch all the videos. I wanted to look over all of the scouting report stuff and figure out just how everything worked. And um, I knew I had so much growing to do. I mean, I didn't start swing blocking until I got into the national team gym. So like there was so much I needed to learn. Um, but it made me really excited because I felt like I could I started to feel the potential inside me, and then to be able to get playing time and have these opportunities, I could start to see glimpses of it coming out. Um, but it just made me hungry for more. And um, so I don't think I really realized that I would have the chance to play with the national team until I was already doing it. And even then I was like, how is this happening? Are they sure? Like, did they maybe make a mistake? Are they just being nice? But once I got a taste of it, I was like, this is the best thing in the world and the most fun I had ever had playing volleyball. And um, I was just, really hungry to continue on with the team and do everything I can to make rosters and help the program in any way that I could. So um, it was, I always say that it came a lot sooner than I thought. In my head, I had this dream of, okay, maybe I'll go overseas and play volleyball. And maybe when I'm, 26 or 27, I'll get an invitation to train one summer in the national team gym. And then there I was still in college playing with the senior national team, just like completely out of my mind, excited. So,
Yeah. All right. So I've had a couple of your friends, peers, colleagues on this show, and I played for them a video that was a really cool video from the U.S. Women's National Team before the Olympics this last summer. I showed you a couple clips just to refresh your memory, but obviously this is, I think, a good time to ask you about it because in this video, you talked about imposter syndrome and whether you deserve to be on this team. And there was a lot of emotions attached to it. You've already been hinting at it along the way. Did they make a mistake? Is it wrong? Like I know that's been a while and a lot's happened since probably you made that video last year, but take us back to your mindset at that time when they were asking you questions. What made you be vulnerable enough to talk with that much emotion? Maybe you didn't know the video was going to be made. I don't know. But I mean, to be able to tell the world that I feel like I have imposter syndrome sometimes, and then a little bit about why, and then the strategy to deal with it. Like, take me through your mindset on that piece. Why did you say you had imposter syndrome?
yeah, I think it kind of goes back to sometimes it's hard to see your own potential. And when you have people around you that can continue to push you because they see your potential, I think that's so important and so helpful in the development of athletes. But I just, I don't know, I would have some teammates who would be like, oh my gosh, like, you're so good, you're killing it. And I'm like, really? Like, even when I watch film, I'm like, oh, I'm not, I think you can get stuck with the comparison game and, well, I don't look like her when I'm playing, and, maybe my stats aren't what I would hope they would be. And it's just hard to sometimes see why you have the opportunities that you do. At least for me, that's how it was. And I think along my journey with the national team, I've been so lucky. I mean, just to be a part of the program and to play with the teammates that I've played with, and they have given me so much confidence. And I think last summer for me, going into the Olympics was a huge confidence boost because my teammates were they just gave me so much confidence, and I felt like I could play with a lot of freedom. And I started to see my potential more. Um, but at that point, it was my second summer with the national team, or I guess my third year with the national team. And, I had already played all of college, all of high school and club, and I'm just now starting to see my potential. And, um, I'm trying to play this game at the highest level in the world. And even at that point, I still was like, well, I don't know. Are they sure? Like, how do they know that like I can do it? And is it an accident? Are they just kind of being nice and hoping that things work out and that I'm able to help the team in the way that they would like me to? um, and so for me, I think having my teammates and the coaches just give me so much confidence, and continuing to push me and telling me they know how good I'm going to be and that they're proud of just the work that I've been doing so far. That meant so much to me and helped change my mindset and help me to realize, like, I don't have to be this perfect player to feel like I deserve to be what I do. What I'm doing now is good enough. And I think if I continue to stay hungry, then hopefully I can continue to get opportunities to play and make rosters and stuff like that. But to sort of feel like, okay, I belong here and it's not an accident and they're not just trying to be nice and not hurt my feelings. Like, there's a reason I'm here. And even if I can't always see it, or maybe I'm like, there's so many other girls who would be better fit for this opportunity than me, there's a reason I'm here. And I can have confidence in that because my teammates have confidence in me. And whenever I think my confidence starts to waver or I start to go back to that imposter syndrome, I think about different conversations that I've had with my teammates. And, I think about conversations that I had with Kelsey, with Feluca, with Jordan. And these are players that I have so much respect for and look up to. And they're telling me that they're impressed with the work that I've been doing on the court. And I'm like, if they're impressed, then okay, I can maybe have a little bit more confidence in myself. And so I really cling to those conversations and replay them in my head so that I don't fall back into that mindset of, well, are they sure? Like, maybe they should have someone else here. So for me, that's been really helpful.
Yeah, I love the way you've explained that. Again, first ingredient of confidence for me, people that know me know this, it's preparation and hard work. You got to put in the work. I say you're halfway home to confidence if you're truly committed, either individually or as a team. And then I'm going to skip the second ingredient for a minute, but actually I'll go right there. I'll say you're halfway home. You put the work in. But when Jordan Larson was on a couple of years last year, she's like, I still struggle with my confidence and my self-talk. And, it's easy to then understand that if nobody could argue that she's not as committed as anybody in history, right? So then if we're diagnosing occasional confidence issues that the best have, it has to be her self-talk or if we're on a bad team, meaning a team doesn't talk to me the right way and breaks me down when I make a mistake, or I have coaches that coach me out of fear. And so you crushed the first ingredient of confidence, putting in the work. And the third ingredient, you've got these teammates and coaches that you rely on in the moment and then even in reflection. So you said in the video that you would have to remind yourself every day that I deserve to be here. I call that a
Mhm.
form of self-talk. Does it truly happen that way for you? Do you talk to yourself in a way when your brain starts to go, oh boy, do they make a mistake? Am I really should be here? I'm not as good as that person. Do you actually use some self-talk skills to help you with your confidence?
Yeah, all the time, like in practice, in games. I remember during the Olympics just being so nervous. Like my whole body's shaking, nervous. And I was like, I need to have something that I can fall back on and remind myself of or tell myself to help with my confidence in those moments. And so I would think about all the preparation that had gone into getting to that point, and knowing I've seen these teams before, I've played against these teams. It's not like, you know, there's going to be this random new brand new team that I don't know at all. And so I've put in the work before in training. I've, scouted this team and looked over my scouting report a bunch, and reminding myself, the one thing I kept telling myself during the Olympics was I have greatness inside of me.
Okay.
And even if I didn't always believe it in that moment, I think reminding myself of, even if I don't see it right now, it's there. Even if I hit this ball a mile out of bounds, that doesn't take away from the fact that I have so much potential inside of me and I have greatness inside of me and I'm capable of doing this. And I know that I can go after it with full force, and my teammates have confidence in me and they're going to have my back because they know that I'm giving my all and trying my hardest. So those are things that I remind myself of even in practice on a day-to-day basis when maybe I'm struggling with my blocking. And it's really easy to get down on yourself when you're struggling with a skill. You don't want to let your teammates down, and you can start to feel really defeated. But um, I find that it's really helpful for me to use those phrases and use that self-talk to reset. And maybe I'm still going to have a bad day, like a bad blocking day at practice, but I can focus on other skills and be really strong in other areas and continue to remind myself that just because I have one bad day of blocking at practice doesn't mean I'm a bad blocker, doesn't mean that I'm terrible at it. Those things are normal, and I can continue to try to reset um, with my self talk.
Yeah, I just love that. I have greatness inside of me. Jordan Larson would say, I'm not a person that can say that stuff to myself. She would talk to herself in the third person saying some similar things. You've been in the game a long time, experience matters. So she would talk to herself in the third person. When young people like you would come into the gym, she said, and she'd go, oh my gosh, they can jump so high. They're so much better than me. Maybe I'm not as good. Her self-talk would go, well, maybe I'm not as good as Jordan or others. And then she'd have to remind herself, no, you put in the work, experience matters. She says, I can't tell myself I'm great. Other people it's perfect. I have greatness inside of me. Justine said she liked to use performance words like focus on her platform or the
Mhm.
spacing of her platform. And so I just try to give athletes and high performers as many strategies as possible, because what works for you might work for somebody else, but it might not. But
Right.
now for people that go, well, I can't, who says that stuff? Now they're hearing Jordan Thompson saying, she has to tell herself, I have greatness inside of me. That's a perfect example of what I call a positive mantra. And
Mhm.
I say, use what works for you. And that's so
Yeah.
cool because, like you said, it helps you refocus. It helps you calm down. So you mentioned you're shaking. Besides, because this is what other athletes think too. Jordan Thompsons of the world, they don't get that nervous. They never get shaky. If they, that's why they're great. And I tell them, no. LeBron James, Jordan, I show them videos like they get nervous. They have
Mhm.
awareness that they're nervous. That's not good. And a strategy to deal with it. Part of your strategy sounds like you use some really good positive words for yourself. Do you do any other techniques to help with what I call composure, meaning managing our nervous system so you can get it closer to where you want it to be so that you can
Mhm.
execute what you've trained?
Yeah, I really lean on my teammates. And I think that's something that we focused on this past summer with the national team is being able to have that vulnerability with each other and not feeling like we need to hide our nerves and cover it up and act like we're not nervous, but be honest. And so I remember before we played China, I was so nervous and I thought that was going to be like the toughest game of the tournament. And I knew that like China just had really huge, talented players. And so I had butterflies. My stomach was like doing backflips. I was shaky. And I remember going up to Michelle Barch and I told her, I was like, Barchi, I think I'm going to poop my pants. I'm so nervous right now.
Right.
And she was like, don't even worry about it. Like, we got your back. We're going to get through this together. And just being able to share that with her and not feel like I needed to hide it made me a lot more relaxed and I think helped me kind of come down from all of the nerves as we started to get into the game because I knew it was just another reminder for me like my teammates have confidence in me and if they have confidence in me I can have confidence in myself and I can go after it and maybe I start out the set making a few errors that are sort of uncharacteristic for me because of the nerves. But as I slowly start to settle in, you know, it's okay. I don't have to be perfect from the start. Um, so definitely leaning on my teammates is really helpful for me.
Yeah. Okay. So this was what's kind of cool now because I've talked to a lot of you. Kim Hill told a story on my podcast. She may be referring to this. She respected the story, but she didn't say the name, but she said one of the things our team did great, like you just said, is being vulnerable and leaning on each other and making sure that if somebody had a problem that we helped take care of it. And she said we had a player who was really anxious before a match. And we told her, it's no longer your problem. We've got you.
Mhm.
And so maybe she was referring to that or another situation. But what I didn't ask her, and I wish I had at the time, was what does that look like? Like, all right, we
Mhm.
say we've got your back. We got you. It's no longer your problem. You've told me you're nervous. You're gonna feel like you're gonna poop your pants. We got you. What does that look like in real time now for whether it was Barch or whether it was
Mhm.
another teammate or multiple ones? What do they actually do to take ownership of that anxiety for you to help diffuse it, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it sort of um, maybe differs for each player, but um, sometimes you just need somebody to like grab your hand and hold it tight for a second or two and you just know like okay they're with me in this and sometimes it's just really strong eye contact and I think um the words that we say play a huge role in that and can sort of relieve that pressure and feel like if I just get these thoughts out of my head and other people can hear them then they can sort of help carry that burden. And it's not something that's just going to be replaying in my mind the whole game and I'm going to be freaking out the whole time. And so it was really nice because we didn't have to hide our feelings. And even before games, we would always circle up and hold hands and say what we're fighting for and what we're thankful for. And it was also a time to just share what you were feeling and how you were feeling. And um, so the whole team, you're all connected with your hands and you just feel like, okay, this is a safe space. And I know that when I choose to share something, it's very, like it's going to be taken seriously and you know that you have however many girls who have your back and who are carrying that with you and who are going to give you grace. I think that was the biggest thing is, you can share whatever you want. And then if you go into a game and I make, 3 hitting errors from the start, my teammates are going to give me grace for that. And they know, like, they're aware of where I'm at mentally, and they're helping me work through that and giving me confidence and, a nice, pat on the back or something, and giving me good eye contact. But yeah, I think it can definitely like vary, but there's just this level of I don't know, just being very intentional about you never feel like you're in it alone. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I love that phrase. That's what Justine said. We never let anyone feel like they were ever in it alone. We never let anyone
Mhm.
sit in their funk.
Yeah.
I have kept hearing this pattern because I try to explain to team this is part of the third ingredient of confidence, that when our teammates know what we need, it could be a word, it could be a handhold, a squeeze, it could be
Mhm.
eye contact, that they tell us we're in it together. We believe in you, we care for you. It's so funny, Jordan, how many athletes tell me, I think my teammate's mad at me when I make a mistake. And I'm like, well, if your teammate made a mistake, are you mad at them? They're like, no, why would I be mad at?
Mhm.
I mean, isn't that, I said, no, not one of you would be mad at the other person, and yet you think they're mad at you. But a lot of
Yeah.
times it comes down to my teammate who normally maybe looks at me, I made a mistake and they didn't look at me. They didn't say
Mhm.
anything to me like they usually do. Now I think they're mad. And so I
Yeah.
always try to get them to be, like you said, very intentional about understanding what everyone needs from each other and to be consistent about it. And then to have enough grace that if your setter doesn't make eye contact and say, hey, I'm coming back at you because she's distracted, that you're not going, I immediately assume my setter's mad at me. Have grace to go, she's probably thinking about something. We've talked about it enough. I know she's not mad at me. So teams now are going to think that you and I talked in advance and talked about eye contact, and that we've talked about a handhold, and we've talked about being intentional and being vulnerable. They're going to say, you gave her what to say. And most of our energy, or I do, trying to talk to teams about what you just said. It's not a mistake. It didn't happen by accident that the national team made history this year.
Right.
It didn't mean you can do all those things you just said, and it doesn't mean you get to win it all. That's not how life
Mhm.
works. But it changes the odds, is what I say. It puts you in the best position. So that's just some of my favorite 10 minutes I think I've ever had on a podcast. So let me just move a little bit forward here for just a minute. So of course we get to the Olympics. It makes me wonder if you ever even thought when they went from 23 to 12, if they made a mistake of putting you on the 12 and go, was I supposed to make the cut? Did you believe that you were going to make the cut to 12 or not?
I think once going into the summer, I was definitely unsure. I had just come off sort of a weird season overseas, and I had been playing outside the whole time. So I hadn't played any opposite all season. And I didn't really know what to expect going in. But then I think going through the process, it started to feel more real. Like once we um, went to VNL and Annie and I were the only opposites there, I was like, okay, now like fingers crossed, if nothing goes wrong, then most likely I can guess that I'd go to the Olympics. But even like it wasn't until I had my meeting with Karch and he told me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it's really happening. And even then, I was still like, okay, it's not for sure until I get on that plane and head to Tokyo. But it was, yeah, I definitely did not know what to expect going into the summer.
Okay, so I'll talk about this through the framework of what Kim Hill said on that video, which you didn't see this time. But what she said on there was that all 23 of us are team first, and we have each other's back. She said, but it's so hard when you're competing against your teammates and your friends for roster spots and for playing time. And yet you want your teammates to do well because you want the team to do well.
Mhm.
But and she called it a weird job, and I loved her way. She said it's a weird job going from 23 to 12, competing against your friends and teammates. And then if you don't start, you want your teammate to do well, but if they do crazy good, you never get to play. And How
Mhm.
did you feel that, or did you, I mean, what's interesting is that you ended up starting. So one, you were wondering if you'd make the team, and then you beat out the starter of the Olympics, right? Annie Drews. It happens, right?
Mhm.
Um, Talk to me about that process of that dynamic of wanting to win the spot, but if you don't get the spot, you want your teammate to do well, because that's going to play out as the Olympics go on, not just for your position, but for a couple
Mhm.
positions here in those 3 weeks. Um,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
It's yeah, like Kim said, it's really weird and just mentally, I think having that balance of I mean, we're all so competitive and of course everybody wants to play, but I think the way that I've handled it is I if I'm not starting, I I'm I know I'm not the person for the job that day. And that's okay because I'm still giving something to my team and even if I'm not on the court playing, I'm still helping out my position by, telling Annie what's open or telling her what the block is doing and being able to give her that feedback. And I still feel like I'm a part of what's happening on the court. And, when I tell Annie, hey, they're taking your cross lines open and then she hits line and gets a kill, I'm like celebrating because I feel like, hey, that was I helped her out with that. And so as much as we all want to be on the court, I think, you know, it's like, okay, you compete as hard as you can in practice, try to earn the spot. But if you don't, figure out a way to handle it mentally and still be the best teammate possible. And that doesn't mean that you're happy about your role and, you are just so excited to be on the bench, but you know that your role is still so important and vital to what the team is trying to accomplish. And you always have to stay ready because there's, crazy things happen, injuries happen, maybe someone has a bad game and then you're going to be called upon. And I think, yeah, for me, just I don't want to ever take it personally or feel like, you know, get my feelings hurt because I'm not starting or something like that. I'm not the person for the job today, and I want the best person in my position to be playing so that our team can be successful. And if at the end of the day, that's not me, as much as I might be upset about it because I want that spot so bad, I want what's best for the team over what's best for me or what I would prefer for myself. And so I think that's how I've um, handled that mental balance because it's very bizarre and you know we're very competitive people, but we also just want what's best for the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, boy, that one message, and again, the number one ingredient that I have seen in championship teams is those that can embrace their roles and role
Hmm.
acceptance. Annie talked about, and obviously you'll remember this, but obviously you're playing great. There was a match, I think you were a little bit in struggle. If you weren't in struggle, it might have just been the Karch wanted to bring a spark. Annie was interviewed after the match where she came in and helped the team win a game after maybe the third or fourth game. She came in for you, and they
Hmm.
interviewed her after the match, and they asked her, "How were you able to come in when you haven't played?" And she said, "Role clarity." She said, "I know what I knew my role was to come in and change the game or bring a spark. It really helps to have that role clarity." And so, um, why do you think Karch pulled you out of that match? Was that the reason why, or to bring Annie in, or what's the reasoning in retrospect and that you've thought about?
um I think it was the turkey game and I just was not playing well. I was honestly, I didn't eat enough for dinner when we had a different match time,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, I am gassed. I just remember being like, I needed to eat more food. I needed to fuel my body more, and it's too late now. And I'm trying my hardest, but I'm just not cutting it for the night. And so that was a perfect example of I'm not going to be upset for getting taken out. Like, of course, I'm so competitive and I'm trying my hardest for the team, but I'm not what's best for the team right now. And I'm happy when the coaches make that change because I want the best person in our position to be playing. And if that's not me, I'm cheering and very excited for whoever it is, because I just want, my position to do well and the team to do well. So, um, yeah, I was just not playing well, and you know, that happens, and it's okay. But yeah,
But great teams are, right? You have depth and preparation to be ready. I love that you mentioned that you can look back to and see an ingredient that I didn't feel for performance. It wasn't intentional, it
Mhm.
happened, but because I'm pretty big on the little ingredients, the inches for a lot of these high school and college athletes to go, you have to feel for performance, right? Because whether it's a test that you need to take at noon to get an A in biology, or if you're a match, you have to figure out what it takes to fuel, because it is
Mhm.
one of the controllables that impact the physical part of the game. It happens sometimes on the road and all the challenges that you guys have. So we win that match. You come back and start the next match as you would expect. And if I remember right, you got injured in that match, right? You went down with
Mhm.
an ankle, and I don't, correct me, but I don't know if you played again the rest of the
Yeah,
series. Is that correct?
I did not.
So
Mhm.
talk to me about that, right? Because again, everyone has these magical journeys, and then just the life of you or the life of your setter or Annie losing her spot, or I think Kelsey Robinson thought maybe she could maybe start. And you have 12 ladies who all could have started, 12 best,
Yeah.
there's just lots of ups and downs to get to the end. For you, we went from a high of setting a record, um, to injuring yourself and not coming back in. Take us through that, for us. I mean, I know the outcome was great for the team, but how about for you? How did you
Yeah.
feel and cope with that?
It was honestly so difficult. I think when it happened, I was more in shock and like I was so focused on, oh, it's just an ankle sprain, right? So I should be back and I'll be good. Not realizing how bad it was. And so I just remember I was crying a lot and I was like, I've been injured before. Why am I so upset about this? And I think it just came down to like that wasn't how I expected my journey at the Olympics to play out. And I felt like I was on this mountaintop high. And I remember one day, maybe it was after we played China, just being like, this is a mountaintop high. And I know that you don't stay up there, you have to come down. And so I was like, okay, however the rest of the tournament plays out, eventually I'm coming down the mountain. Um, and I thought in my head, okay, I'll slowly make my way down the mountain. But when I got injured, it felt like I was just kicked off the side and like to crash and burn at the bottom. And it just was so far from what I expected to happen. And I don't, getting injured was just never on my mind at that point. And so I think it was just a lot of um, adjusting mentally and figuring out, okay, I don't want this to take away from the team. Like, I don't want to be always in my feelings in front of my teammates. And of course, I have my teammates that I'm closer with where I talked with Haley Washington a ton and was just asking her and trying to figure out like, well, why am I so torn up about this? Like, why is it affecting me so much? And I had those times to really share what I was going through, but I didn't want it to affect the team as a whole. And I didn't want to be the Debbie Downer of the tournament.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'd have my moments where it was really tough. I would maybe need to cry. And then I was like, when I'm with the team, I want to be the most positive person. I remember the next game, I wasn't able to dress because I couldn't warm up with the team. And so I was sitting in the stands and I almost had to stay in the village and watch the game on TV because my physio didn't want me to miss any of my treatments. And so I went to the game, was sitting in the stands with my Normatex on, and I'm like, I'm going to be the loudest person in this gym. There's no fans in here, but I'm going to be the loudest person and cheer on my team and make sure that they know that I'm still here and still trying to give to them in any way that I can. But it was really difficult, and I think it took a while to process why I was so, affected by that injury. But I think coming to terms with it and being like, well, that was just how my journey, I guess, was going to go, and figuring out what I could take away from it. And I think it really taught me that, people go to the Olympics and it's this mountaintop moment to make it. And then you have people whose journeys don't look the way that they thought it would. I mean, even girls on the team, you have 12 of the best players in the world and we can't all play. And I'm sure, girls who didn't see the court as much, it was a really exciting time, but also it's really difficult because you want to be out there, you want to be helping the team on the court. And I think it helped me with this awareness and just this different perspective of the different journeys people have at the Olympics, and not just being able to realize that it's not all, sunshine and rainbows and this beautiful time of life. Like, it's a really cool experience, but there are also hardships that people go through in such a unique and cool moment in their life.
Yeah, it is all magnified, right, in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Team, you, I mean, people's journeys get magnified in big moments like the Olympics, and there's just so much emotion involved with it, right? And but at the end of the day, right, you mentioned in the video, and then you mentioned about Cincinnati, those 2 words, out team, right? And my sense from others that I've talked to was that the U.S. had plenty of talent, but maybe not the most talented team in U.S. history. They have, again, tremendous talent, but there might have been more talented individuals on a couple other teams if you just looked like a pure individual. And yet,
Yeah.
the U.S. felt like if we out team, and they were obsessed with what I call mistake recovery, getting on to the next point, partly by the way we communicate with each other. You get on to the next point better when you know your teammate has grace for you and there's no question in your mind that they believe in you, they're not mad at you, go for it, right? For you, can you put into words what out team meant for a group of, it's one thing at Cincinnati, right? But now we're talking 22 to 35-year-old women at the highest level of sport, figuring out a way to out team. Put into words what out team meant to the U.S. women's national team.
Yeah, I think when I think about out teaming other teams, it's sort of like you find this unique way to come together and have such a like intentional connection beyond just what's going on the court, so that you almost like add up to more than like the sum of your parts. Like, we were stronger than just the talent that we had. And it was, I don't know, it was such a powerful and like tangible thing for us as a team. And it's something that is just really unique. Like, you have to be very intentional to get to that point. And I think we put in so much work with the Zoom calls and the team meetings and having the hard conversations with each other and telling each other, getting down to the nitty gritty of, hey, if this happens during a game, this is how I appreciate or respond the best to being communicated with, and defining things and defining, what success looks like and what this looks like, and being very nitty gritty with everything. And sometimes it can sort of seem like tedious work, but then once you get to those big moments, you're like, this is why we were doing all that work. This is why we were meeting, however many times a month. And when, we're all in different parts of the world playing on our club teams and we're staying up until 11 o'clock at night to jump on this team call, this is why it was worth it. And it's just such a powerful thing. And I think sometimes it's hard to put into words what it really means, but it's like a feeling, like, you're out teaming other players at times, but you can't even put it into words, if that makes sense.
It does, because you're not talking about technical skills here. You're
Yeah.
talking about all the intangibles that make the unique life of a team. You put a great intentional connection, right? I mean, and
Mhm.
what does that mean? Of course, it looks different, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of work and it's tedious. And you hinted at some of the calls and Zooms and being vulnerable and telling people how I want to be talked to. I mean, that's all intentional connections that I always say to teams that I'm around. Most people don't do this. So if you
Mhm.
do, you'll have a competitive advantage. If you
Yeah.
have similar talent to another team, you put in this work. Most people don't want to do it because it's tedious, it's hard to define. You're not even
Yeah.
positive it's going to work. And
Right.
you have this feeling state and you're like, now this is why. I've asked others, I need to ask you as well, because I'm such a fan of this phenomenal woman. She sort of played the role of what I might play for a team or do play for a team. She's not got the clinical credentials, but she's got all the most important credentials in the world, meaning Sue Enquist, a national championship coach many times over, lots of life experience. Of course, I'm a big fan of hers. Can you put into words just a little bit about what she meant to your team? Because she functioned as the role of sports psych, mindset training, connection piece, even though that's not her. She's a coach and
Yeah.
a brilliant coach and a brilliant person. Can you put into words what she meant for your team?
I mean, I think if you ask anyone on the team, you're probably going to get a similar response. Like, she is the reason we won gold.
Yeah.
And just the work that she did with our team, and the tedious stuff, the Zoom calls and filling out different like forms and doing these like text message response things, so we get an idea of like, oh, this is how, when we talk about holding each other accountable, this is what it looks like, and this is how people view it and would define it, and doing different stuff like that. That work that she did with us was just so valuable. And um, I'm just like, when I think about her, I'm like, how does she take us from like here to there? And how did, like, I just remember going through these different like steps and processes with her and having no idea that we would end up like the team that we ended up as. And we did a lot of our work when we were in, separated during COVID and then overseas and not actually together. But then once we got back in the gym, there was just this different sense of connection that we all were commenting on. And we were like, this is so cool that the work that we were putting in when we weren't together, you're seeing like the fruit of that when we finally were able to come together. And we were just, I mean, so incredibly thankful for Sue and the way that she, I think, challenged us, and also, I think, allowed us to be more human in a sense, and having that vulnerability with each other and sort of breaking those walls down and learning more about each other. It was really helpful for those moments where your backs are against the wall and you need to be able to rely and depend on the people around you and trust them. And so I think what she did with us really helped with that.
Yeah. See, the outcome behavior is human connection and trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always say it's the one and done part of the season in this, whatever we're looking at, postseason or in the Olympics, where if we lose, it's over, which is a very different mindset and feeling state that, of course, we don't want to lose here, but we know we play tomorrow versus we're
Mm-hmm.
behind right now or we're in stress and this could be it. And sometimes our brain jumps to the outcome, but when we get too stressed because we don't have the trust and connection, and our teams break apart if they haven't done this work under
Yeah.
stress. And so under stress, your team obviously played better than ever. You had lots of times where you were a big part of that on the court, and other times where your role had to be off the court, like a number of your ladies on your team. You get to the gold medal match, you're not playing obviously on the court. I remember I tweeted this out. Of course, I never knew I was going to speak to you, but I tweeted something out you said, because it's my favorite stuff, that you said, I think you might have said, I don't know what my role will be tonight, but if my role is to be on the bench, I'm going to crush my role. You use the word
Mhm.
crush because I use that a lot of times with people. Like, you see what Jordan said she's going to do tonight. She's going to crush her role. Her role might be on the court, and it might be on the bench with no points on the court, but she's going to crush the role she's given. And
Mhm.
that's what great teams and great individuals do. What was it like for you in the gold medal match, even though you weren't on the court?
It was I think it was really interesting because before we even went onto the court, I just had so much confidence in our team, and I felt like I've never felt this way before, but I was like, "We are going to win." I had this deep sense of, like, I felt like in my head, we had already won, and we just needed to, like, go out and play the game. And I was it was really emotional because I knew whether I get on the court at all or not, this is the last game that I'm going to play with some of these women. And so I really just wanted to soak it all in and, like you're saying, crush my role. I wanted to be the best teammate I could be no matter where the team needed me, whether that was on the court or on the bench. And um, I I wanted to give everything that I had because I knew that my teammates deserved it, and I wanted to be able to I think I was so thankful to play a part, um, on that team and be a part of history, and I think just what made it so special was the women that I got to do that with, and so in that moment, I was, like, soaking it all in and just so excited, and I was saying stuff, like, on the bench, I'm like, we're about to sweep them, like, we're about to win in 3, that's just crazy," and my teammates were like, don't jinx it, there's still points left," and I'm like, "We're gonna do it," and so I just
So,
it was really just such a special moment, and I was just so thankful to be able to experience that because it's something I don't know, it was this feeling where I'm like, "I'm never ever gonna feel this exact feeling ever again." And I just really wanted to cherish that moment.
yeah, to be able to appreciate that and have awareness of that in the moment is pretty special, right? That's really
Yeah.
high level stuff. So, of course, I knew Kelsey Robinson from Nebraska. She played there 1 year. In the video that
Mhm.
I shared with you that you didn't see, she talked about missing funerals and weddings and all kinds of things and the sacrifice that you have to go through, and that you also have to have this certain level of commitment and dedication, right? And so
Mhm.
when I tell people she did all those things, and she might have
Yeah.
thought she was going to start and she maybe played a set or two, right? Yet she was
Yeah.
always dancing and she was celebrating doing her role. And so here's my lasting memory of the Olympics. Maybe you've seen it since on TV. It was disappointing to me the way they went to another sport in the middle of, like, at the end. But the lasting memory I have, they showed you and Kelsey hugging together for 30 to 60 seconds. And
Mhm.
that was the last picture on TV before they signed off to wherever they were going. I don't know if you've
Oh,
ever
wow.
seen that, but it was
No.
the entire last minute of the program on NBC or whatever it was on was you and Kelsey hugging. Um,
Wow.
do you remember hugging her? Do you remember having
Yeah.
an embrace with her?
Yeah.
What was that
I
about?
mean,
What was that about?
she's been so huge for me and such a big part of why I am starting to have confidence in myself and who I am as a player. And um, I remember when we were both playing in Turkey, 2 seasons ago. I went to her house and I was just like talking to her about the summer, and I'm like, I really want to play well. And she was like, dude, you are a baller. Like, you're so good already, and you're only going to keep getting better. And, you can be one of like the best opposites in the world. Um, and so to have somebody who I really look up to tell me that and think so highly of me was um, just such a confidence boost. And so I think she was another person who, once I got injured, I was talking with and kind of sharing, like trying to figure out why I was so emotional about it. And she was really huge for me. And I remember she told me, like, we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't be in this gold medal match without the work that you put in at the beginning of the tournament. And that's not even something that occurred to me or that I thought of. And so I was just, so thankful for her and her, just like what she had done for me, the words and the encouragement and the love, and the confidence that she had given me. And so it was just a really special moment to be able to share, because like I said, she had come and visit my team when I was like a freshman or sophomore in college. And then next thing you know, we're walking in the opening ceremonies at the Olympics. Next thing you know, we won a gold medal together. And so it was a really full circle moment for us that was really special.
Yeah, I love that it was a full circle moment, even though what you might have envisioned your roles to be in that moment on the court
Right.
weren't exactly there, but it was all that. So my last two questions in this sense is, do you believe, Kelsey, that we wouldn't have been in the gold medal match and had won the gold without you?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm not sure. I think, I was really happy to be able to help the team early on in the tournament. I still have confidence that, like, even if I wasn't playing, we would still go win a gold medal. But like I said, it wasn't something that I had even thought about. So that meant a lot, because the way that I had envisioned my journey going, I thought, okay, if I keep playing well, then hopefully I can keep getting playing time.
Mm-hmm.
So to know that I still had an impact, and I still, was able to help the team on the court at some point during the tournament, it was something that I felt like I could take with me and not be so distraught about how I got injured and how everything kind of went down. So
Yeah. So the pairing to that is have you figured out, do you belong at this level?
I feel like I now think I do. I believe that now I'm able to see the potential that I have. And I don't think I always believe that where I'm at right now I should, be playing with some of the best players in the world, but I believe that I can continue to grow and one day feel like, okay, I really deserve to be here, and I'm good enough to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes it's a little hit or miss still, but
Will you send me an email when you finally believe that?
yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. So as we wrap up, and from my vantage point, where do we go from here? What's the next year look like for Jordan Thompson?
The next year I think looks like a lot of growth. I want to just continue to play well, continue to grow as a player, and be the best teammate that I can be. And I'm really excited to compete this summer and then hopefully have a really strong season overseas. I think it's been a little bit of a bumpy road for me with playing professionally overseas so far. And so I'm really looking forward to an opportunity where I think I can excel and grow in the way that I really want to.
Awesome. I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there anything else that you want to share that I left out, or that something that I just didn't think about asking you?
Um, I don't think so.
I have
No.
greatness inside of me. That's one of my big takeaways among many wonderful nuggets here. I mean, it's not a surprise. The energy that your team spent working on being vulnerable, I think, has made every one of you that I know, and in your case, someone that I didn't know yet, have this ability to be vulnerable in a setting where you don't know the people like you did in your setting where you were, to be able to express vulnerability in a setting
Hmm.
that's not among that team where you learn vulnerability or trained it together. And I don't know if that's one of the cool outcomes, is because you all got so good at it that you can actually do it in a setting like this. For my audience to be able to hear your the top of the mountain, the distraught parts, and everywhere in between, from the yes, I know I belong, to I don't know if I belong, to everything that you feel for somebody who's consistently made history, because you're human. And I think that's what I was hoping I would get today, was your vulnerable side, because you don't know where somebody will go. And I think
Hmm.
that's the blessing among many things today, is that the coaches and athletes that tend to listen to this a lot, especially volleyball coaches, female athletes, they're going to hear a vulnerable, real person who's at the top of her game, who still is open enough to say, I need to grow. I haven't figured it all out. Sometimes I wonder if I don't belong. Am I good enough? And it's
Hmm.
okay to have both at the same time and still work on
Yeah.
being great. And so I'm so thankful for you, as somebody who we've never met before, to be able to share those thoughts for an audience who craves to hear what the best think and feel and do. And they never want to hear that the best have it all figured out, because they can't relate
Hmm.
to that. They want to hear that
Yeah.
the best are in struggle, but have strategies to cope with it. And
Yeah.
you've explained a lot to us in that regard. And I can't wait to share this with everybody. So thank you so much for being on the Max Out Mindset.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really had fun just, sharing. And so hopefully there are some nuggets in there that people um, will be able to really connect with.
They will. And now we're going to be able to do this again one day after I get the email from you that says,
Yeah.
I finally belong, I believe.
Yes.
We can talk about that part of our journey, right?
Yeah.